So hello and welcome to Powerful Solutions, Incipio and Griffin wireless and portable charging hosted by Voicecom. My name is Jen and I'm the expert on basically everything product related here at Voicecom. Today we are here with my good friend Lindsey from the Incipio Group, who would like to discuss some power products that will fit perfectly into your product portfolio.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. Welcome everyone, and thank you for participating in this webinar. As many of you know, Incipio has been around for a while, a leader in the mobile device accessories with a house of brands to meet the market needs. Some of you are probably more familiar with us on the cases side, but with brands like Braven, we stretch into audio, brands like Encase, luggage. And about a year and a half ago, we purchased Griffin, which is got a great reputation on the power and survivor side of the business as well in B2B. Not only do we own those 6 brands, but we also have partnerships in a licensing arrangement, delivering mobile solutions for brands like Kate Spade, Under Armour, Toomey, and more. So our goal is to help you grow your accessory business by providing products that you can rely on. As we go through this presentation, as Jen mentioned, feel free to submit your questions. There's going to be a time at the end. And if you see any product-specific information, SKU information, that's also going to be provided after the webinar. So don't feel you have to try to scratch everything down on a note to capture that. It will be provided. So today we're going to cover a growing category of products, portable power and wireless charging. So these 2 products have seen an uptick in growth. But before I get into some specific details, what I want to do is take a much bigger picture look of our industry, because it's really feeding this specific category. I'm going to look at trends in portable power and wireless charging. And then what I'm going to do is highlight some of Incipio's and Griffin's solutions for consideration as a product assortment strategy based on the data that we look at. So no one would disagree what a profound impact wireless has and continues to have on the world. But it is helpful to look at some specifics around those impacts, and all this data is provided by CTIA. So first of all, we continue to hear about 5G and its coming need and expansion, and seeing here the growth of mobile download speeds certainly feeds into that need for the marketplace. With more devices entering the home and the workplace, the volume of subscriber connection continues to see healthy growth year over year. This first chart certainly supports the need for 5G, as they are planning in 2018 to see more smartphone connections, data passing through smartphones than fixed broadband, which is staggering. Obviously, more of the population in the US having access to 4G LTE drives that. You think of data plans, pricing has come down, and also the prevalence of unlimited data is going to continue to drive this. Wireless continues to move from what typically early on, especially with smartphones, to be a luxury to more of a necessity, as driven by just this snapshot of what consumers look at for new places to live. Location, location, location. You always heard of, good schools, affordability. Reliable wireless is now a critical piece of that decision making. And that is certainly supported in this stat as well. How important the smartphone is to the consumer's dependence on the service. If we start evaluating all the ways we use our smartphone, it's amazing to me the dependence we have. I'll share a brief story. I experienced this when my phone was stolen the last night of CES, and my flight was the next morning. I immediately felt anxiety because my boarding pass was on my phone. I can't get my Uber in the morning. All my data, connecting with my wife and kids. Later, after calming down, I figured out, hey, I could email them. I could even FaceTime them from my laptop. There's still cabs out there. Take one to the airport, print my boarding pass. But it just was a reminder of just the immediate sense that I had when my smartphone was no longer available to me. So obviously, we are in this business surrounding wireless mobile devices, and this probably isn't surprising to us, although some of these statistics certainly are interesting. But as we start looking at more specific categories within our business, we rely on a company called NPD. This group captures consumer and retail data. And by leveraging their trends that they see through the data, we can build products that are more geared to specific market segments and driving what the market is looking for. So this is helpful in two specific ways that we're going to look at. What are customers buying, and at what price are they buying it? So let's run through some highlights related to portable power and wireless charging. Since the announcement of wireless charging for the iPhone 8 and 10 series in September, wireless charging sales have significantly grown and have now captured the number 2 slot over power banks, and even power banks taking the number 3 slot over wireless chargers. So we can continue to see growth in this area. Looking at year-over-year growth, we still see healthy year-over-year growth for battery banks. Obviously, battery banks have been around for a lot longer, so not as a significant increase in growth compared to wireless charging. But with the improvements in technology, and certainly, and I'll show you in a little bit, the announcement from Apple, we've seen wireless charging year-over-year growth just be tremendous. And this will give you that snapshot. So this charts out right around the time that Apple announced wireless charging to mid-February. And you can see that immediately we saw some growth, significant uptick during the holidays, and while it's leveled off, it still continues to be healthy business. So let's take a look at average price. So while we always want to consider price, low price, high price, what we're going to market at, with the need for more milliamperage and functionality, it's important to understand that that's driving the MSRP up. The average selling price continues to grow in power banks. And I think it's important for us to understand that we can capture more ASP at the cash register. As we saw in the CTIA data about wireless industry and our dependency on devices and how high it was, it's important that we understand that we've got to keep them powered, and portable power banks is certainly a efficient way of doing that. The other aspects about wireless charging here is holding on to MSRPs as well. You'll see some $30 to $40 options, but clearly the $50 plus has the lion's share. And we anticipate with the coming Air Power from Apple that the ASPs will continue to trend up in the marketplace. So as we kind of look at a couple of these trends and insights, just highlighting sales volume, the opportunity there, price points, you know, it's helpful to understand that this is growing business that still has healthy margins and solid ASPs. So as we think about those trends in wireless charging and battery banks, driven by the consumers that depend on their smartphones, I want to share with you our products. Before I do, I want to recap some important characteristics related to the products. And many of you may be very familiar with this, but I thought it would be just a great opportunity to highlight 3 key things related to wireless charging and battery banks. We're going to talk about Qi, fast charging, and power delivery. So Qi and PMA are the 2 wireless charging certified standards, with Qi clearly being predominant. Incipio and Griffin's products are Qi certified, and this is important for the consumer and their experience and safety with the product. So Qi certification uses independent lab testing to ensure it meets safety requirements to prevent overheating and cause user or device damage, and to ensure it's compatible with the device that the consumer is using. So both from a reliability and an efficiency in how that power is used. There are various charging speeds. 5 watt is where it all started, kind of the standard low end of it. The various charging profiles you'll see there. 7.5 is the Apple fast charging, proprietary to the Apple device. The 9 watt to the Samsung fast charging, and 15 watt is the maximum Qi charging speed. So 2 considerations here in wireless charging: Qi certified and its charging capabilities. When we look at that, those are some of the things that we can leverage for the consumer acquisition. What device they're carrying, do they need the ability of fast charge, and ensuring that it's Qi certified. In battery banks, we've seen 2 recent changes. Obviously, USB Type-C came onto the market here in the near future. That's obviously being adapted into the portable power bank space, and power delivery, also referred to as PD. USB-C does have different versions and specs that deliver more or less data and power. It's important to know, and we can share some one-sheets after the webinar that kind of break down different USB-C specifications. So if you're not familiar with them, you can be. So some that will go up to 100 watts, for example. It's video delivery capabilities to just simple power. So it's good to understand what you're assorting, what's available on the market, and what your customers need coming into the stores. So while USB, micro USB and Lightning ranged from 5 watts to 12 watts, Type-C introduced 15 watts, which is considered non-PD version of Type-C. Then you have a PD spec, which is used for fast charge and with power up to 100 watts. So a couple things that we'll see there as we go into more specifics on the product. So all this information drives us to 2 core assortment directions: a value and a tech or a high feature assortment. While ASPs increase, we do have to consider the value play. Someone who is just looking for a simple, low-cost option. We saw that there was a marketplace for that. But we also, at the same time, need to qualify our customers and offer them the best solution. And for many smartphone users, that full feature tech play is the direction to go. So starting with wireless charging, Incipio's, call it value play, is our Ghost 110 PW149. This is an affordable, dependable, Qi certified charger that delivers 5 watts of charging. $39.99, it's an affordable option for wireless charging. It has a soft touch finish so it doesn't scratch the device, and has a vibrant indicator light at the front, which is an important piece visually to know that your device is charging, because when you put your phone on a wireless charger, there's usually an audible connection to your phone, But if you were stepping away and didn't hear it disconnect visually, you would know that it's charging. So a great piece to the wireless charger. Secondly, our full feature tech play would be our PW371. The thing I like about this product is it supports every fast charge profile available and future-proofed Qi wireless charging up to the 15 watts that I mentioned earlier. So again, this supports the Apple fast charging, Samsung fast charging in a single solution with an MSRP of $59.99. If we remember back and looking at the NPD data, the plus $50 price point is where a lot of the volume is going. So it fits right into that. Provides a simplified solution from an assortment perspective. You could have one option to cover everything. This also comes with that soft touch finish to prevent scratching. Has a front wrapped indicator light so you know it's charged. And as I mentioned, simplification in assortment by being able to support Apple and Samsung, every profile in between 5 to 15 watts. So we're going to take a look at the power bank space. So when we look at, call it the value play, a simple solution for mobile devices is our Griffin Reserve power banks that you see here. These are great, aggressive MSRPs that provide that support from a power perspective at 5 to 12 watts. The nice thing I like about these is one of the challenges in power bank space is its ability to take a drop, take that mobile environment, and a lot of times the connectors can get a little beat up and affect your ability to charge. We do some testing to ensure we have strong connections there, and the ability for this to auto detect when you're at max power so the battery no longer continues to try to charge and overheating. So there is an auto shut off as well. So you can see from a milliamperage perspective, 2,600 milliamps to 18,000 price points from $19.99 to $44.99. So as we start looking at the next kind of step up in the USB-C, obviously fairly new, a couple things that we're going to see here. One, power can be delivered at fast speeds, so you're going to see larger milliamperage. So to support a core USB-C for the mobile device, these non-PD version banks deliver up to 15 watts of power to support the USB-C devices. So with fast speed options, the fast charging is built into it, Quick Charge 3.0. We continue to see increased power requirements in devices, not only in larger devices, but also with the ability to do the quick charge. I think for now, if you're predominantly mobile devices, most of the wireless retail can be supported by these two power bank solutions, the core one I just showed and the non-PD version. However, I did want to share with you our PD options because this is more future-proofed, and if we look, and if your business expands beyond that, then looking at the PD versions is an important piece. Before we do, you'll notice non-PD milliamperage starting at the 15,000 milliamps going up to 26 from 54 to 69. In the PD version, you'll see, keeping in mind that we're delivering more power. So this is up to 30 watts and still has the quick charge port so it can handle the Samsung devices or other Android devices that have quick charge capability. Because we're talking about now being able to charge not only smartphones and tablets, but even USB-C laptops, this ability to hold more is there to be able to cover that device and at the higher power capacity. In conclusion, you know, my goal was to provide you some value that kind of shapes what our industry looks like with this category around wireless charging and battery banks. ultimately, we want you to know that this is what drives our well thought out solutions based on the trends that we see, both from a price, from a feature set perspective, what the devices demand. But at the same time, our goal is to provide you with a simplified assortment options that support both the value seeker and the high-tech consumer, and at price points and feature sets that is clearly in demand in the market and by these consumers. So again, I appreciate your time. I wanted to put this slide up so you'll have my email address. We talked about being able to submit your questions. If there's any questions, now's the time to get them in as I conclude here, and then Jen will come back on and read some of those questions. But you have my email address here if you need any assistance. As a follow-up, as I mentioned earlier, we will provide a SKU list of the products mentioned on this call. Also, your VoiceCom representative will be reaching out to you to provide you with SKU and the pricing information that you need, so you have everything to your advantage. If you don't have a specific account rep, there will be folks from VoiceCom following up with you to make sure you got everything you need after this this webinar. So again, I appreciate it. At this time, Jen, you got any questions to cover?
I do. Awesome job, Randy. I'm sure if I unmuted everybody, you'd be hearing a standing ovation right now. So we do have a couple of questions here. I'm going to go over a few. Dale asked, are these power packs water resistant?
They are not. Griffin provides some splash resistant portable power banks in our Survivor line. And each of the ports have a way to seal it so it can handle a splash. But the ones that I showed you are not.
Awesome. Awesome question, Dale. Thank you. We have a question here from Joe who wants to know a little bit more about whether certain milliamperages are better suited for certain devices, such as will a 7.5 wireless charger also charge a Samsung at the same rate? Will a 15-watt charge an 8 or an iPhone 8 or iPhone 10 just as fast?
Yeah, so what I'll do is we've got some one sheets that break down the speed, the amount of power that a connection on a power bank provides, what the requirement is by port type, and that way you have a good summary. Let me just highlight a few things for you because it does differ. For example, you have the quick charge profiles that I mentioned. The quick charge will provide a short-term power that is received by a phone that has that chipset on it that will charge it like 50% in a fraction of the time, and then it goes back to its standard charging. iPhone users don't see a similar thing because that's a Qualcomm chipset. So knowing the differences in devices is good, and we could probably go into a whole webinar about this, but let me just highlight a few things as it relates to portable power banks and its ability to charge. So iPhones are roughly about 2,600 to 2,800 milliamps battery size, because this is what we're charging, right? The size of the battery in the phone or in the device. Samsung Galaxy devices range from 3,000 to 3,500 milliamps. And a tablet is, because there's varying sizes of tablets, I mean, you could be around 5,000, anywhere up to 11, 12,000 milliamps. So you can see that from a capacity perspective, it truly depends on your user. If it's a smartphone only, if it's an iPhone only, they could get away with that $19.99 and get a full charge and they're good to go. Or they may want a couple charges. So then all of a sudden they need to look at the 5,200 milliamp because they would deplete 2 full charges of their iPhone before going to it, or if they have an iPhone Plus, maybe just under that. So definitely have your sales reps, your folks in the store, understand the power requirements, the battery requirements of the devices that you're selling, because that does go hand in hand. Because you don't want to underpower, you don't want to create an experience where, maybe they're charging it after, half a use. And so understanding that's a big piece of it. As far as the speeds of it, your standard speed will depend on the rating. So there's a calculation that'll be in the one sheet that basically takes wattage, and your voltage basically gives you your amperage, so the amount of power that it's pushing through. So different connections will have different volts. So you want to look at that as you're assorting. What does that support look like? Lightning, for instance, has a max charge of 12 watts. So I could give you a 15, 30 watt all day long, and that connector is only going to deliver 12 watts of power. So like I said, I think it'll be beneficial. I'll get that one sheet I pulled a couple things off of it, but there will be one thing on just kind of power delivery overall, PD versus non-PD, Type C, and just a good educational piece. As a follow-up, we'll include that in some post-webinar documentation, so you have it, a good reference sheet for you and your teams that support you.
Absolutely. We can find a way to embed that into the blog post so everybody can get access.
Perfect.
So I have a question here from Lynn, and she wants to know, how do you know a product is cheese certified?
Yeah, so I highlighted cheese certification is important for safety, for the consistency of product performance. So knowing that is an important piece of it. So on the packaging, the logo that you saw on that slide showed a Chi logo. The packaging for the product would maintain that Chi logo certification, right? So there's a standard. But you got to be careful, because anybody can go and copy and print that on a box. Obviously, they do what they can, but if you look up Chi certified, there's a website they have, and you can actually go in and search for a product. So by vendor, you can go in and you can find the exact product that is certified. So if it's not in there, it's not. So that's a good tool.
Cool, thanks, Randy. We have Joseph here. He wants to know, has the Incipio Ghost wireless charger officially been released yet?
So the TW371, one that has all the fast charging profiles, is in production. We will start receiving that late next month. So we can keep you posted, but that is currently a product that is towards the end of production.
Okay, great. Let's see here. All right, this just rolled in from Hector. He wants to know, this is a good one. How does Incipio's wireless charging compare to the competitors?
Well, no, I think it's a fair question. So one of the beauties of the Chi certification is that there is a standard lab testing that's required to become Chi certified. So a benefit to the consumer is, if they know that you assorting a product and selling it, hey, this meets that certification. What I can tell you about our products is, since the first wireless chargers were built by Samsung, Incipio has been on that front lines building wireless charging. So this is not something that we just started because, Apple got into it, or it just started becoming prevalent in the past, year and a half. We've been doing it for years. And having that reliability is a big piece of that. The other thing that I think you have to look, and there's a lot of competitors out there. So to be able to isolate and start comparing any one versus the other is looking at the aesthetics of it as well. I mentioned different feature sets that aren't necessarily affecting its reliability to deliver the wireless Qi, but like the soft touch, the light indicator, knowing the other options, the fact that a lot of our competitors are providing a Apple Fast charger, wireless charger, and then a separate Samsung wireless charger. And we've decided through Qi certification that we can deliver a solution that covers all of it. So whether your family is mixed between an iPhone and a Samsung or an Android device, then you've got one solution, and it, again, creates simplicity to the assortment.
Ready for the super great questions. As I mentioned earlier, please hang tight for a quick poll. I hope to catch you on our webinar next time. And thank you for choosing VoiceCom. Have a good day, everybody.